I'm taking Nebraska. I think Nebraska is ready for this moment. I think Nebraska has been preparing for this moment. And I think their efficiency with the passing attack will give them an advantage in this game. Hello and welcome in. It's always college football. I'm your host, Greg McElroy, and we are so happy that you're here with us on a Thursday. It's a preview show. Thursdays are our bread and butter. It's our best show of the week. We put a ton of time and effort into trying to break these games down to the best of our ability with the information that we have available. Yes, there are some fluctuations that occasionally happen when injury or something like this goes down. So here's what we'll do. All right, we're going to go game by game. We have 9 big previews for you today. We also have our giant killers, but there's a lot of really intriguing games and not necessarily always marquee ranked versus ranked matchups. There's a couple games that we have that are involving unranked teams that we think might be pretty significant when it comes to the overall landscape of college football. So we'll dive in. You probably know where we'll start. We'll start with the noon window like we always do, and we'll work our way through in chronological order. I want to also encourage everybody that's here, go ahead, subscribe to the podcast. If you're there and have not rated just yet, go ahead and leave a rating if you could. That'd be great. Wherever you think we deserve to be rated, I'm good with that. And then you can also, if you're on the Always College Football YouTube page, on the ESPN College Football YouTube page, hit that thumbs up button right down below. The interaction and the comments are always awesome, especially on our preview shows where everybody has an opinion on how these games are going to go. Let's kick things off. Noon window, or is it a 10 a.m. game there on Fox? Number 17, Texas Tech, heads to Salt Lake City to take on number 16, Utah Utes. Utah about a 3-point favorite right now. This game is 12 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. Early 10 a.m. local kickoff. Could play a bit of a role, by the way. Maybe a little slower, maybe a little sluggish, maybe a little more methodical start for these two teams. Beyond the stats here, a lot of intangible factors that favor the Utes here. We know Rice-Eccles Stadium is a notoriously difficult environment for visiting teams. This fan base will go nuts, high altitude. This is a really fantastic opportunity for both these programs to kind of make a declaration. Here we are, guys. We're not going anywhere. Big noon kickoff will be there. That'll be live from Rice-Eccles for the very first time. Texas Tech's had a fantastic offseason, a meteoric rise in conversation points. Is it sustainable? We'll find out. What about Utah? Are they able to get back to the physical dominance they have long been known for? At first glance, these two teams are basically mirror images of each other from a statistical profile. All right, well-rounded, elite in areas. Both programs rank in the top 15 in offense, defense. Makes you think this is going to be a evenly matched ball game with two potential powerhouses. However, the numbers are very impressive, but it does come with a bit of a caveat, the quality of the competition. Utah in particular, their strength of schedule is about 120 right now. On the other side, Texas Tech, they're at 136. Utah does, however, have a win against a Power 4 opponent in UCLA, but we found out that doesn't mean very much. Texas Tech is led by Joey McGuire. Biggest change this year within the staff, new DC in Sheil Wood, who's been brought up from Houston and has so far orchestrated a pretty significant turnaround on that side of the ball. Utah's staff, fantastic staff. Kyle Whittingham, one of the best in the business, new OC, but Morgan Scalley is still there as the defensive coordinator. That's been a long-time strength. The quarterback matchup is fantastic. Texas Tech's Behren Morton, been around for a long time. He's playing his best football of his career. Through 3 games, he's been super efficient, over 70% completion, nearly 1,000 through the air, and 11-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But it's the chunk yards that I love. He has 18 completions that have gone for 20-plus yards. So his strengths are not only on the deep ball accuracy, but he can process with pre-snap. He does a really good job of creating things when the pocket breaks down. And on the other side, it's Utah's Devon Dampier, one of the most entertaining players in the sport. He's thrown it really well this year, 73% on the completion, 7-0 touchdown interception ratio, just 2 sacks. And he's also, like I said, 0 picks. So not a lot of mistakes being made right now. What is the matchup of the game that we're most intrigued by? Texas Tech's offensive firepower against Utah's traditionally dominant defensive prowess. Question number 1. Can Texas Tech's firepower win against Utah's secondary. This is not a system that's going to dink you and dunk you to death. It's a vertical passing game. It's going to challenge you at every level of the defense. And Texas Tech right now is number 2 in the country in passing yards per game. They're averaging about 383 yards through the air. They are 8th in passing yards per attempt at over 10 yards per attempt. So we've talked about Behren Morton, but he's got a great weaponry, great arsenal of people to rely on. The primary target's been Coy Eakin, who's got 12 for 245 and 3 touchdowns. The Miami, Ohio transfer, Reggie Virgil, who's really established himself so far this season. But that's not just the wideouts. They also have some difference makers at tight end. Terrence Carter averages 20 yards per reception. So that's a big body that can stretch the field as well. The depth chart is kind of scattered throughout with a lot of really good players. Utah's secondary, they've kind of established a, quote, no-fly zone over Salt Lake City. They are 20th in passing yards allowed. They're allowing just 134 a game. They're 8th in opponent completion percentage at under 51%. They've been fantastic on yards per attempt at just 5.4. That's top 25 in the country. And they've capitalized on some mistakes. They got 4 picks this year. Jackson Benny has been standout. He's got 2 picks, took 1 back to the house, but they are going to be without Rabbit Evans, another safety who suffered a season-ending leg injury last week. Question 2, can Utah's pass rush get home? It's a defense that does a great job of preventing big plays, but they also make it really hard for the opposing quarterback to find a rhythm. But the success really begins up front with a really disruptive and relentless pass rush. Utah is currently 10th in the country in sack percentage. They're getting home on nearly 11% of the opposing quarterback's drop back. And you need to keep an eye on their defensive end, John Henry Daly, who has been a force. He's got 5 sacks with the first 3 games. This constant pressure from the front 4 kind of allows Utah to be a little creative with their coverage scheme, and it sometimes forces quarterbacks into making big mistakes. And this Texas Tech offensive line, if you look at their win against Oregon State, it showed that maybe there are a couple inconsistencies with pass protection, especially on the interior. So they'll be watching that guard to guard more than anything else. How will Utah attack it? How will Texas Tech hold up? If they can neutralize the pressure, give Behren Morton a clean pocket, he certainly has the skill and the weaponry to pick apart what might be an elite secondary. Question 3, can Utah pound the football against Texas Tech's rebuilt front? Utah's offensive success has always started in the trenches. Powerful run game, great offensive line, usually leads to an identity that is all about just handling the line of scrimmage. They are 7th right now in rushing yards per game. Guys, 290 rushing yards a game. They are running the ball almost 50 times a game. Okay, we know what we're getting when we watch Utah. They have a dynamic duo at running back with Wayshawn Parker, who's got nearly 200 yards and 7.1 per carry. Macquarie Rogers is kind of the short yardage workhorse who's punched in 4 touchdowns. Another dimension to this rushing attack, too, is Dampier, who is the team's leading rusher with 198 yards on 33 carries. So the quarterback, keeping an eye on him in the run game, is also of pivotal importance. And Texas Tech's defensive line, there is not a team in the country that improved more from last year to this year along the D-line. If you look at what they've done in the portal, they've resourced that position, and they currently look pretty good with some of the returns on investment. They're top 3 in the country in rushing yards allowed per game. They also are even more impressive on a yards per carry basis. They are number 2 in yards per carry right now. So a dramatic change has been kind of spearheaded by these new additions. Lee Hunter from UCF, Skylar Gill-Howard from Northern Illinois. They provide strength and physicality and size needed to kind of control the line of scrimmage to allow these linebackers to flow freely over the top, and Ben Roberts and Jacob Rodriguez, who are very, very good. Question number 4, how much has Texas Tech's defense really improved? Now, they entered the 25 season. The defense was by far their biggest question mark. The 2024 group, for the most part, underperformed across the board, but it was the pass defense that was among the worst in the country. And got to be honest, too, I don't know if I've seen a team tackle as well as Texas Tech this year. Like, this team has tackled extremely well. And if you look at other teams, there's been few that have kind of stood out with when they get contact with a guy, they get him to the ground. Mizzou, SC, there's a few other. I haven't seen Texas Tech miss very many tackles, so that's big in this game as well. Can Utah control the clock? That's question 5. This ground and pound approach leads to them controlling the ball and possessing the ball for nearly 35 minutes of the game up to this point. We know Texas Tech's offense, they're built for speed, they're built for explosiveness. They thrive on maximizing possessions. So it's going to be important for Utah to control the clock. And then question 6, does this game come down to third down? Utah's offense has been unbelievable on third down this year. They are first in college football, converting 73% of their third downs. That's insane, by the way. That's a ridiculous number. The goal across the board is like 45 to 48%. They're at 73. While Texas Tech, they're allowing just over 14%, which is 5th in the country. So good versus good there on the money down. Trend in the game, Texas Tech has failed to cover in 6 straight games in ranked matchups when both teams were ranked. I'll take Utah. I think the home field advantage and Devon Dampier will be too much. His athleticism will neutralize a ferocious pass rush, and I think this offensive line will emphasize the point of attack, and they'll be able to create some surges in the run game. Arkansas travels to Memphis. This game is 12 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. Arkansas is about a 7-point favorite there in Liberty Stadium. Memphis been good at home, historically good. They are 41-7 at home since 2018. They're undefeated. They're 3-0. Arkansas fresh off a loss last week to the Ole Miss Rebels. But for Memphis, is a massive opportunity out of the AAC. It represents a huge chance on their schedule to beat a Southeastern Conference opponent on a national stage, network audience, to build a legitimate case. Right now, it's all about USF and the CFP out of the G5. Well, Memphis is like, hang on, we haven't had our chance yet. Maybe we'll get it here against an Arkansas team that might be reeling just a little bit. And for Arkansas, they're very talented. They're battle-tested. Tough one last week. On the road is a critical test, and we know that this will be a bit of a tune-up for them, if you will, against real SEC conference opponents if they try to rebound from that gut-wrenching loss last week. We know Sam Pittman. We know Bobby Petrino from Arkansas staff. We know Memphis has a really good staff as well, kind of across the board. The quarterback matchup is fantastic. Taylon Green, he is turned into a ridiculous threat at quarterback for the Razorbacks. Through 3 games, he's got over 300 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns. He's averaging almost 10 yards per rushing attempt. Okay, the guy has been outrageously good. And his evolution is not exclusive to what he does running the football. He's been pretty dang good through the air, too. Thrown for 866, 11 touchdowns, just 2 picks. He is currently leading the country in total offense with nearly 1,200 yards. Memphis' Brandon Lewis is 55, 75, 608, 190. And when you watch this young man, he's pretty dang good. Like, I don't think enough people know about Brandon Lewis, but I think when you watch this weekend, you'll be impressed with what you see. Question 1, can Arkansas establish the run? They're 4th in total offense. We know that. They're 5th in scoring. And even after the high-scoring affair against Ole Miss, they still average a remarkable 245 rushing yards a game at nearly 7 yards a clip. Now, Taylon Green's the guy that makes it go. I mean, he's got game-breaking speed, had 151 yards on the ground against Arkansas State, followed it with 115 against Ole Miss. He's the only quarterback in the country to post back-to-back 100-yard rushing games this year, but complementing his perimeter threat is the downhill power of Mike Washington. He's a really solid piece there. He's gone for over 260 himself, averages over 8. He's the guy that'll beat you up the middle, while Green's the guy that can get to the edge and cause a lot of problems with you. They also have contributions from Braylon Russell, so they have kind of a multifaceted rushing attack that can create a lot of problems. And while Memphis, they're one of the better run-stopping units in the country. You might not know this, but against the first 2 teams they played against FBS opponents, they're 11th in the country, giving up less than 70 yards on the ground per game. Their yards per carry allowed is just under 2.4 yards per carry. It's a really good defensive front, and they have one significant difference maker in William Whitlow Jr., who's really good there on the interior of the defensive line. Question 2, can Memphis get Arkansas off schedule? Arkansas's entire ecosystem is predicated on staying on schedule. They got to gain 4 more yards on first down to create manageable second down and third down situations. If they can kind of impose their will and average more than 4 yards a carry on first down, they'll control the clock. It will wear down Memphis's defense, and they're one of their best third down conversion rates in the country will come to the forefront. Question 3, can Memphis run the ball and shorten the game? Look, this offense led by Ryan Silverfield, who's rooted in the O-line, we know their identity. They're methodical, efficient, and they're really committed to the run game. They run the ball 56% of the time. It's one of the higher marks in college football. So Brendan Lewis, their quarterback, he can contribute. Sutton Smith, their running back, he can contribute. Overall, they average nearly 220 yards a game. So if they can have constant 12, 13 play drives that go for 75 yards and take 8 minutes off the clock, that's not just a touchdown for Memphis, but it's also a defensive victory because it keeps that Arkansas offense on the sideline. I think it'd be advantageous for Memphis to shorten the game. Question 4, how will Arkansas's passing attack fare against Memphis' secondary? Now, Green's been amazing, like we've documented, but more importantly, he's been really good on deep ball passes. He's got 15 completions of 25 or more yards this season. That's big. And a big question in the preseason how would Arkansas replace their top 7 pass catchers from a year ago? Well, they went to the portal and they've found some guys that have emerged, like Omega Blake, who's clearly the number 1, thrives on play action. And this Memphis pass defense has been one of the worst in the country through the early part of the season. Maybe not one of the worst, but they've been a little susceptible there on the perimeter. Question 5, can Memphis win on third down? They got to be good on third down. Arkansas's third down defense, the first 2 games, they're allowing opponents to convert at a pretty remarkable clip. So currently they are allowing 44% conversion, which is 107th. So Memphis is going to have to win on third down. Question 6, can Memphis force a key turnover? Because in 24, Taylor Green put the ball on the deck 12 times. That was the most in the SEC. That stat cannot be ignored going into this environment. And so far, Arkansas has turned the ball over 3 times this year. Memphis has forced 4. I'll take Arkansas, but I would not be surprised if this is a shootout, a high-scoring affair with teams scoring into the 40s. 22nd ranked Auburn Tigers head to Norman, Oklahoma to take on the 11th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma is about a 6.5 point favorite. This game is 3:30 Eastern time on ABC from Memorial Stadium there in Norman, Oklahoma. The Auburn staff, really good staff across the board. Hugh Freeze does a great job kind of calling the plays, mixing it in with Derek Nix, the defensive coordinator. They all have really good roles in this team. Like, guys kind of understand where they are. It took a lot of criticism there in the preseason. Well, Hugh Freeze is going to maybe call second down. Derek Nix will call first down. And someone else will call third down. So far, it's worked pretty well. So no need to kind of get into the minutia of who's calling what. But I really like kind of what they have across the board. And then DJ Durkin on defense, man, he's created a very solid unit with very few weaknesses. Oklahoma staff, their head coach, Brent Venables, we all know about him. The offensive coordinator, though, Ben Arbuckle, first year there, they've been fantastic. It's kind of a traditional air raid, but there's a little bit more to it than your traditional air raid that you've seen in the past. Auburn's quarterback, Jackson Arnold, one of the big storylines of the entire game. Highly anticipated return to Norman, Oklahoma, where he started 9 games for the Sooners in 24. He's undergone a pretty significant transformation. He's actually been very efficient, and he's been very secure as the offensive leader for the Auburn Tigers. Through 3 games, he's completed nearly 70% of his passes, 4 touchdowns, 500 yards, but the most significant number on the stat sheet so far is 0. That's 0 interceptions. That's a big difference from what we saw from him wearing a Sooners jersey, where there were some struggles with the ball control, had some fumbles, had some interceptions. It was a concern throughout last year, and I think those things hopefully are behind him for the Auburn Tigers. We'll go next to what I think has been the best quarterback in the country through the first few weeks of the season. That's Oklahoma's John Mateer. Surgical with what he's done so far. Converting throws downfield, hitting guys underneath, utilizing his legs. He's done it against quality competition too. Michigan is no slouch defensively. He's gone for nearly 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns with the first 3 games. So really excited to see what he does now against quality competition that will make you play smart football. That's what Auburn tries to do. They play smart on defense, which forces you on offense to be smart as well. Question number 1, will Oklahoma be able to corral Jackson Arnold in the pocket? Now, his primary impact so far this year, most notably against Baylor, has been as a super dynamic and powerful runner. He's not just a guy that can scramble, too. I mean, he can scramble and has, but they really utilize him as a big piece of this rushing scheme. And I think he'll get a heavy lift this weekend in the run game. And through 3 games, he has 192 rushing yards, 35 carries, averaging 5.5 per attempt, and is tied for the team lead with 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, his dominant performance against Baylor, like I referenced, he went for 137 in that game by itself. It was a statement on the intent of what Auburn wants him to be. And that's a dynamic ball carrier that can also create with his arm. But it feels like still at this point in his development, his best attribute is his legs and being able to break you down in the run game. Question 2, how much does Arnold's familiarity play a role? Now, this is, I think, an interesting intangible in the game. Jackson Arnold, he knows this Oklahoma defense inside and out. He knows their personnel. He knows their individual tendencies. He knows the core principles of how Brent Venables wants to attack you. So his familiarity, having practiced against this team for multiple seasons, could give him a little bit of a unique insight into the strengths and weaknesses of this defense and their structure. However, the opposite is also true. Oklahoma's defenders know exactly what they're going to get with Jackson Arnold. They spent countless practice reps defending his scramble patterns, trying to mess with his eyes, try to mess with his decision-making, trying to pressure him. They know his tendencies too. So when a play breaks down, they know where he is least comfortable, right? They know where he's going to maybe move and how he's going to escape and things like that. So that mutual familiarity kind of elevates this matchup into a bit of a chess match, one that we'll be interested in documenting for sure. Question number 3, can Oklahoma find some balance? Now, this is a little bit of a concern in their relative inefficiency in the run game right now. They're averaging 156 yards a game on the ground. That's 78th. They're averaging just over 4 yards a carry. That's 89th. Now, Torrey Blaylock is their leading rusher. He's got 166 yards on 31 attempts. Now, Napier can help. He's got 161 on 33. So the quarterback and the run game, can they do it in a more consistent way? Because it hasn't really been there as much as you'd like in these first few weeks of the season. Question 4, can Oklahoma's passing attack continue with their elite execution? Napier has been the model of efficiency so far. He's got 9 yards per attempt, stellar 153 passer rating. He's got a deep and talented core of wide receivers and does a great job of distributing the ball. We know how good Deion Burks is. He's got 17 for 225. We know how good Keontez Lewis has become. He's a great perimeter threat that can get behind you defensively. But one matchup problem that has emerged, and we didn't anticipate, has been their tight end. That's Jared Kanik, who has emerged as that they're changing positions, was a linebacker, a quarterback in his past. He's now switched to tight end. He's got 14 catches for 245. So did not anticipate him playing as much as a role as he has, but he's been a revelation for this Oklahoma offense. Question 5, can Oklahoma stop the run? Probably the most important question of the game, right? On paper, Oklahoma's run defense appears to be legit. They're allowing less than 100 yards a game, under 3.5 per carry, but the schedule has been a little bit light. If you take into account Illinois State, a Michigan squad that they could completely sell out against the run, against a freshman quarterback and a non-conference foe in Temple, this rushing attack is not seeing anything quite like they're going to see this week, with schematic diversity, with physicality, and the quarterback run element that Auburn now brings to the table, because Auburn's ground dominance is kind of tailored around a really veteran offensive line. They returned all 5 starters from last year. They fortified that unit with key additions in the transfer portal, and several think that this is the team's greatest strength. It might not have played that way in fall camp and throughout the first few games, but they think that this is what that team could grow into, an identity that is centered around the offensive line. They're currently 16th in rushing yards per game, doing a pretty good job at over 240 a game, averaging just under 6 per carry, which is in the top 25. Jeremiah Cobb's done a great job. He's got power. He's got some explosiveness. Hasn't had a ridiculous amount of touches, just 46 carries, but he's averaging nearly 7 yards per carry. So I think it's important for Auburn to stay on schedule in this game, because they could, if they get in obvious passing situations, potentially be open for some vulnerabilities and protection. And another thing, too, to stay on schedule, you got to avoid penalties. Right now, they're averaging 7 penalties a game. That's 89th. So that's going to be big as well. Question 6, can Auburn's pass rush have an effect on John Napier? Now, Auburn has proven that they are really disruptive and have been really solid so far in getting after the opposing quarterback and getting that quarterback to the ground. Their sack percentage is just under 11%. That's 8th in the country. And Keldrick Falk, we all know about him. He's getting a ton of attention, understandably. The guy's big and physical and disruptive, so he's getting a lot of attention from the opposing offense. So as a result, with the attention going to Falk, you now have Kieron Crawford, who's got 3 sacks already this year. He's got a lot of one-on-ones and has a lot of freedom and has taken advantage of that freedom that he has on the other side. Now, Oklahoma's pass pro, not necessarily a glaring weakness, but there has been a bit of vulnerability. so far this year. They're kind of middle of the pack in the sacks given up. It's not great. The one-on-one battles between Crawford and Falk against Oklahoma's offensive tackles could be a huge subplot kind of to monitor throughout the entire game. And then question 7, who wins the turnover battle? Oklahoma currently possesses a deeply concerning -5 turnover margin. The offense has committed turnovers. They got 3 picks and a couple fumbles. The defense has been unable to take the ball away through 3 games. Oklahoma's defense has not forced 1 turnover, which is kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. And in stark contrast, Auburn's been pretty good there. They are +2 in the turnover margin, so keep an eye on that. A couple trends in the game. Oklahoma is 1 of 8 Power 4 teams to have every game go under the total this season. Auburn is 5-1 against the spread as an underdog since the start of last year. That's the best among Power 4 teams. I will not make a pick in the game. I'll be on the call alongside Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath at 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Up next, the Michigan Wolverines, ranked 21st in the country, will travel to Lincoln, Nebraska. It's going to be 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS from Memorial Stadium, one of the best atmospheres, one of the best environments, one of the best venues in all of college football. Nebraska heads into this game 3-0. Really, really excited for them. Here's a long-awaited opportunity to kind of abandon the, quote, mediocrity that we've seen for the last 2 decades, it feels like. This is an opportunity to kind of announce their return to national relevance and the growth that they've experienced over the last couple of years under Matt Rule. And for Michigan, they're 2-1, had a tough loss against Oklahoma. It's a tough test, right? Going on the road and proving they can win in a hostile environment with a true freshman quarterback and their head coach, Sharon Moore, serving a suspension in this one, which means Biff Poggi is the head man today for the Michigan Wolverines. So we'll see exactly kind of how that has an impact. Will it have an impact? We've seen head coaches at Michigan suspended in the past, didn't have an impact whatsoever. And Biff Poggi's experience, he's been there for a while. So him kind of providing that leadership there as a head coach, we'll see if it has an impact on the game throughout it. The DC, Wink Martindale, we'll talk about him a little bit as well. He plays a significant role in this game in what should be one of the better coordinator matchups of the weekend, with Nebraska's OC Dana Holgorsen against DC Wink Martindale for the Michigan Wolverines. Nebraska's Matt Rule, big year for him. Think they can potentially break through with the personnel they have. And their DC, John Butler, just his first year as the DC, done a pretty good job up to this point. The quarterback matchup is awesome. A matchup of future stars, it feels like, in college football. Bryce Underwood, #1 overall recruit in the country. The talent's been obvious. The completion percentage and the efficiency, maybe not what you want, but he's been solid. I mean, he's still very, very dangerous with his legs. We saw him kind of be unleashed against Central Michigan, showcased kind of some game-breaking potential on the ground. We hadn't seen him as much of a runner there in the first couple games, and he goes for 114 and 2 touchdowns. So this will be his second true road test. It wasn't great against Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, but that performance was kind of a conservative plan. I don't know if they'll go into this game with the same type of approach, knowing how it went the last time out. Then on the other side, Nebraska's Dylan Raiola, who has been surgical so far this year. The guy's completing nearly 77% of his passes, has 8 touchdowns, 0 picks on 94 attempts. His passer rating is nearly 180. It's excellent start to the season for Dylan Raiola. So question 1, can Raiola continue playing a highly efficient football? Now, Dana Holgorsen, who took over play calling duties late in the 24 season, has kind of changed what this Husker offense is all about. It's a scheme that's kind of predicated on rhythm, on high percentage throws, on timing, on being patient. It's created a little bit easier reads for Raiola, and the offense has kind of stayed on schedule. And they haven't really had those drive-killing mistakes that we saw at times in the past. They have been really, really smart with bringing Raiola along, and he's shown a lot of maturity in his willingness to just distribute to a revamped receiver core, including Kentucky transfer Dane Key, Cal transfer Neziah Hunter, and a really dependable slot in Ja'Cory Barney Jr. Their running back Emmett Johnson also is a pretty good safety valve. He's very much involved in the passing game as well. So this offensive scheme is kind of engineered to protect from possible vulnerability. And that's a rush defense that has yet to really face a top-tier rushing attack. Question 2, Can Michigan's run game take advantage of an untested defensive front? Now, the identity of Michigan football, we know this is not new, and whether it was in Jim Harbaugh's tenure or Sharon Moore's tenure over the last 2 seasons, it's going to be fortified in the trenches, right? This offense is a ground and pound machine, and the 2025 stats kind of bear this out. They're 15th right now in rushing yards per game. They are 15th in yards per carry. They average over 6 yards every single time they hand the ball off. And the engine of the attack is Alabama transfer Justice Haynes, who's going for over 8 yards a carry through his first couple games and has accumulated 284 yards and 4 touchdowns. His debut was fantastic against New Mexico. He went for $160 and 3 touchdowns there in the season opener. He's complemented by Jordan Marshall, who's steady, and the ever-present threat of Bryce Underwood, whose running ability from the quarterback spot will force defenses to account for that extra man that they might want to try to get in the box. Now, Michigan's offensive line still kind of working to build some cohesion after quite a bit of turnover, and there have been some people that have pointed to it as a point of concern. I'm not there yet. The head coach, Sharon Moore, supposedly has been spending a little more time with the unit, trying to accelerate their development, but this matchup might be going against Nebraska's Achilles heel. Right now, they are 85th in the country against the run. They're giving up over 4 yards per carry. And while the overall defensive numbers are respectable, they're very, very solid, the vulnerability is kind of a glaring red flag in the contest against one of the nation's premier rushing teams, right? This is an aggressive 3-3-5 scheme designed to keep chaos and pressure and confusion, but it can be somewhat susceptible to power running teams if that 3-man front is unable to kind of control the line of scrimmage and prevent offensive linemen from getting to the second level. So if Michigan's able to run the ball at will, gaining 5.5 per carry, they could dominate the time of possession, and that would keep Dylan Raiola on the sideline and methodically grind out a victory. However, if Nebraska can hold up in the front 7, hold the Wolverines to under 4 yards a carry, that will force Bryce Underwood into obvious passing situations, which, as a true freshman, is he capable of handling? Question number 3, how aggressive will Wink Martindale be? We know what he's famous for, right? Super aggressive, creative pressure packages that try to create negative plays and force turnovers. They are really good at opposing quarterbacks, disrupting the rhythm, disrupting their eyes, and they, as a result, force picks at a pretty remarkable clip. About 4.9% of passes attempted against them end up in Wolverines' hands. So in their first 3 contests, they got 5 picks. They've only allowed 3 passing touchdowns. Now, Ernest Hausman, key player there in these schemes, will be a focal point of this defensive attack. And while you look at their sack totals, they may not necessarily be overwhelming. The primary objective is just to generate pressure and disrupt the timing and force mistakes. And that secondary can potentially capitalize on. And while Dana Holgorsen, their entire system is predicated on getting the ball out of Raiola's hands quickly and under 2.5 seconds, and that kind of limits opportunities for sacks, but also limits opportunities for big plays as well. So therefore, Michigan's path to victory is not going to be this air war where they're trying to bring Raiola to the ground, but maybe disrupting the delicate timing of the offense and changing coverages at the snap, tipping passes at the line of scrimmage, forcing him to hurry, messing with his eyes, and maybe, for Michigan's case, getting some hands on a couple footballs. Question 4, can Nebraska continue to win on 3rd down? They're elite on the most important down in football. They convert over 62% of their 3rd down opportunities. That's top 10. That allows them to sustain drives, control the clock, wear down opposing defenses, and their defense, they've been pretty good in 3rd down as well. Right now, teams are converting under 17% against Nebraska, which is top 11 in the country. Michigan, on the other side, they've shown some vulnerability. Their offense is fine, but unspectacular. They're 51st on 3rd down conversions, but the defense is where it's a little bit concerning. They're giving up over 43% conversions themselves. That's triple digit, 103rd in the country. So a big difference there, and it could come down to 3rd down in this game. Trends in the game. Nebraska is 1-8 against the spread against ranked opponents since 2022. That's the worst among Power 4 teams. They are 7-14 against the spread as a home underdog since 2013. That's the worst amongst the Power 4. Now that I've told you the trends, I'll tell you the pick. I'm taking Nebraska. I think Nebraska is ready for this moment. I think Nebraska has been preparing for this moment, and I think their efficiency with the passing attack will give them an advantage in this game. And I also, like I told you earlier, I think 3rd down is pivotal in this game. Nebraska has a significant advantage there. Therefore, I'm taking the Huskers. The South Carolina Gamecocks travel to Columbia, Missouri to take on the 23rd ranked Missouri Tigers. Missouri is just under a 2-touchdown favorite. This game will be 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. South Carolina's coaching staff, Shane Beamer is the head coach. OC is Mike Shula. DC is Clayton White. And for Missouri, really good staff headlined by their head coach, Eli Drinkwitz. Big story in this game is the quarterback situation. South Carolina's Lenora Sellers. We're going to operate under the assumption that he's available. We don't know if he will go. We don't know if we'll know until game time. It's sounding somewhat positive. Just so you kind of have the backstory. Last week against Vanderbilt, they're down 14-7. Sellers releases a throw, gets hit in a pretty violent hit from the Vanderbilt linebacker. The hit drew a flag for targeting, ejected the linebacker, but it left Sellers hurt on the field for over a minute while he was attended to by the medical staff. And while Shane Beamer said after the game that it was way too soon to know if Sellers would be available for the Missouri game, and that reports later confirmed that he was diagnosed with a concussion, which was a significant development because that requires you to go into NCAA concussion safety protocols, requires a clearance from medical personnel before you can resume play. Well, on Sunday, the narrative started to shift. And during a teleconference, Beamer was a little more hopeful, saying that he's, quote, optimistic that Sellers will be able to play against the Tigers. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But if Sellers can't go, that could be a huge problem for South Carolina's upset bid of the Missouri Tigers. Missouri's quarterback, Bo Pribula, has been outstanding. Transfer quarterback from Penn State, won the preseason competition against Sam Horn, whose season has now been cut short, but he's been in complete command, and he's been outstanding here in these first couple games. Really precise, completing 76% of his passes, just one pick, 7 touchdowns. His quarterback rating is one of the best in the country, but it's his rushing acumen that's also really difficult to defend. He's got 76 rushing yards and a couple touchdowns on the ground as well. So this is a guy that can stress you in a lot of areas with his arm, with his legs, and he makes this Missouri offense really go. Question 1, can South Carolina do anything offensively without Lenora Sellers? Now, before the injury, Sellers was 6 of 7 for 94 yards. And while he'd thrown a costly interception in the red zone, the offense was pretty functional with him at the helm. Well, once he departed, the unit completely fell apart. In the 41 offensive plays that the Gamecocks ran without Sellers, they failed to score a single point. They had just 184 yards and committed 3 turnovers. The offense was handed over to Luke Doty, who was a 6th-year senior, has been around for a long time. He's very experienced, but pretty ineffective. Just 18 to 27 for 148 and an interception, and then he lost a fumble on a sack as well. So under his direction, South Carolina really couldn't manufacture explosive plays. Their final 3 possessions of the game ended in giveaways, and it led to a pretty lopsided defeat. So the takeaway is this. Sellers is not just the team's best player, he's the entire offensive system. So even before he went out, the unit's national rankings were not great, right? They're 118th in total offense, they're 96th in scoring, they're 118th in rushing offense, 30% on third down conversions, that's 120th, 50% in touchdown efficiency in the red zone, that was 103rd, triple dig in a lot of categories, not what you want. These struggles are not just in one area too. They rank kind of near the bottom in almost every meaningful offensive category. So they got to be better in this matchup because Mizzou has a top 5 defense, statistically speaking. They're allowing 200 yards a game, that's 5th. 100 yards through the air, that's also 5th. They have a couple of big-time playmakers in Damon Wilson and Zion Young. Those 2 guys up front along the defensive line can create a lot of problems for an offensive line that has struggled at times this year. Question 2, can South Carolina slow down Missouri's rushing offensive attack? Now, the foundation of Missouri's offensive dominance has been a punishing rushing attack led by an offensive line that is, in a lot of ways, new. A lot of those guys haven't played a lot together, so the fact that they're averaging over 300 yards per contest is pretty impressive. Now, their running back, Ahmad Hardy's been outstanding. He's got 462 yards and 5 touchdowns through 3 games, 8 yards per carry. He's not by himself either, though, because Jamal Roberts is there. Solid complementary punch. It's a nice 1-2 combo that can help kind of control the line of scrimmage and get things going vertically. And that creates really favorable opportunities for Bo Pribula off play action in the passing attack. And the Gamecocks defense, they're pretty dang good now. 43rd in scoring defense. They allow 17 points a game. 49th in total defense. They give up just under 310 a game. Their performance against the run has been really solid. All right, they're top 50 at 107.7 per contest, and they do have some standouts like their edge defender, Dylan Stewart, who's a freshman All-American, one of the best in the country at his position. He can take over the game. And their nickelback, Jalen Kilgore, he's a big-time player as well. They're kind of on the edge. But the problem is they haven't been very good on third down, and that's when an edge rusher and a nickel should be at their best. They're giving up 43% on third down. That's 103rd. Question 3, can South Carolina win the turnover battle? I think they absolutely have to win the turnover battle in this game. The first couple games, they kind of protected the ball. They forced some takeaways. They go into week 3 with a +3 margin, thinking, all right, South Carolina's right where they need to be. And they came back to earth in a big way. They now have 4 turnovers on the season, 4 takeaways on the season, so a 0 in the turnover margin. They have to get back to doing things the way they did them in the first couple weeks, creating short fields for an offense that's been struggling a bit and stealing a couple possessions to keep Missouri's high-powered attack off the field. Missouri has covered in 8 straight games. It's the longest active streak in the FBS. I'll take Missouri. I don't know right now what to expect from Lenore Sellers. Even if he plays, I still think Missouri is more complete. I think Missouri is more disruptive along the defensive line, and I think they can apply pressure against an offensive line that has struggled up to this point of the season. We'll go next to another game at night. This is the Florida Gators taking on the 4th-ranked Miami Hurricanes. Miami right now about a 7.5-point favorite. This game will be 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. This is going to be an awesome game. I love this rivalry. I love the hatred, the vitriol. One side of it, you have a top 5 Miami team that's just the model of efficiency, trying to solidify their status as a legitimate national championship contender. And on the other side, you have a battered, beleaguered, battle-tested Florida squad that's desperate to try to get things back on track. And a signature victory against their arch rival, who happens to be in the top 4, could be huge in revitalizing a team that's got a lot of negativity surrounding it. Look, Billy Napier's in his 4th year. They kind of limp into Hard Rock Stadium with a 1-2 record. Their season has been kind of remarkable, right? The 18-16 home loss to South Florida. They fought hard, but didn't do enough in ball security on the road trip to Baton Rouge. They came up short against LSU. They got to get things going in the right direction, but it's not the defense that's the problem. It's the offense that has been challenged here these last couple weeks. On the other side, it's Miami. 3-0. Resume is tremendous with a season-opening win against Notre Dame and then a complete demolition of the 18th-ranked South Florida Bulls. 4th-year head coach Mario Cristobal, OC Shannon Dawson, DC Corey Heatherman. Really good staff, I think, for the Miami Hurricanes on both sides of the ball. The quarterback matchup is a fascinating one. DJ Lagway, he has been really good at times in his career. We know he was a 5-star recruit. However, there have been really high highs and really low lows. He's got 6 picks already this year. Anytime you have 5 touchdowns against 6 picks, it's not what you want, naturally, especially when taking on a top 5 opponent. And we understand that the preseason was hampered by the calf injury, cost him 3 or 4 weeks in preseason camp, probably affected his timing, affected his rhythm, affected his confidence, but he also missed spring. It's a guy that's kind of just been rusty here and hasn't played a ton of football in the last 8 months. So it's going to be absolutely imperative that he shows up, plays well, and makes great decisions, because this offense cannot have another multi-turnover performance from their quarterback and live to tell the tale. Miami's Carson Beck on the other side. What a story. Decorated career at Georgia. He's been so poised. He's been so precise. He looks like a seasoned pro out there. He's played a lot of football. We know that. But statistically speaking, nobody is playing more efficiently than Carson Beck. 78% of his passes have been completed. He's got 7-2 touchdown interception ratio. The passer rating's been off the charts. He can diagnose things pre-snap. He can deliver the ball accurately on the underneath, but he's also hitting things downfield. The guy's got a career record of 27-3, including the 3 wins that he has at Miami. So he's won a lot of games as a quarterback at the college level. Question 1, can Miami's offensive line continue their dominance? The foundation of Miami's offensive success is along their offensive line. Probably the best offensive line in the country, anchored by guys that are going to be playing a long time in the NFL, including their right tackle, Francis Maui-Noa. Now, their performance in the first 3 weeks has been amazing. They've allowed just 2 sacks in the first 3 games. They've seen some good pass rushes too, by the way, and they've given Carson Beck a really clean pocket to operate from. Now, one of those two picks that Carson Beck threw was against pressure against USF, where he had to slide in the pocket and threw a not a throw that you'd like for him to make under duress, and it was picked off. The exceptional pass protection, though, has been the direct reason why Beck has been as efficient as he was, and the offense has avoided all those negative plays that have plagued them in the past. This line doesn't just excel in pass blocking, they're incredible running the football as well. They're averaging 174 yards a game on the ground. They have a two-headed monster at running back in Mark Fletcher, who is the leading back, but Shamar Brown, he's also outstanding. But don't forget about Jordan Lyle, little banged up in the opener against Notre Dame, but don't forget about him. He's got major juice. So when he gets back and when he's healthy, he can provide even more depth to an outstanding running back room. Now, this Gators defensive line is really good. If you look at things, they're allowing just over 82 yards on the ground per game, under 3 yards a carry. They are a little skewed because of the performance against Long Island in week 1 when they gave up just 37 rushing yards. But a big storyline in this game is that their defensive tackle, their star defensive tackle, Caleb Banks, sounds like at this point he's not going to be available. That's a huge blow to their depth and their ability to control the line of scrimmage against an elite offensive line. Question 2, can the Gators run the football? Now you look at the numbers, they're not bad, over 165 yards a game, and their success in this matchup, it is going to be absolutely imperative on them creating opportunities in the run game. Look, the centerpiece of their offense, I know DJ Lagway gets all the headlines, but Jaden Baugh is probably their best player. Almost 250 this season, 37 carries, 6.5 per attempt. However, he's found the end zone just one time. He's got to break tackles, man. He's so good after contact, he always seems to be falling forward. So if Florida can successfully run the football, they can kind of accomplish pretty much everything they need to do at once. They can control the time of possession, which is a statistical strength for them. They control the ball and possess the ball over 4 minutes of the game so far. That'll keep Carson Beck on the sideline, and that'll keep this offense on schedule, and it will set up opportunities off play action for DJ Lagway. Miami's defense, new defensive coordinator Corey Heatherman, they are built to stop what Florida does best. They're one of the best in the country at stopping the run. In the first 2 games, they allowed just 3 yards per carry. So the 3 games, they've actually gotten better, 2.4 yards per carry. And that includes a game against Jeremiah Love, who is one of the best backs in college football. So we know Miami has tremendous talent, tremendous size, and a scheme that will make it very hard on Florida and their offensive line to attack the point. But I think Florida is going to have to be creative because I don't think they can be one-dimensional like they were last week and live to tell the tale. Question 3. Will Florida be able to create explosive plays? We haven't seen enough of this from Florida, but the mantra of their team and their offense's identity is pound the rock, hit passes over the top. And so far, DJ Lagway has not been good on the downfield throws. But last year, if you want to reverse back to 2024, on throws that traveled 20 or more yards downfield, he was 18 of 35. That's 51% completion on throws that traveled 20 plus. That led college football, or was in the top 5 of college football and led the SEC. So if he can get back to doing what he did last year as a true freshman, and they could start to manufacture explosive plays, that would go a long way in opening up the run game and making this offense a whole lot more balanced than it's been the last couple weeks. Question 4, will Miami force some turnovers? Turnover margin is staggering in this game. Now, 3 games in, Miami's been clean. They've been disciplined. They have a turnover margin of +2. They have 4 takeaways and did have a couple turnovers last week against USF, but there's been a commitment to ball security, and they've been very opportunistic on the defensive side. Now, on the other side, Florida is -5 in turnover margin. Now, everyone can point to last week's game and DJ Lagway's struggles to throw it to the guy wearing the right jersey, but they need to be better. All 6 of Florida's turnovers have been interceptions. And the turnover margin, I think, is going to be impossible for Florida to overcome. So if Lagway has a clean sheet, they should be in great shape. If he throws picks, it's going to be tough sledding for the Florida Gators. And then question 5, will penalties continue to plague Florida? 3 touchdowns this season have been wiped out by penalties. That's 2 against USF, then a 95-yard catch and run or 90-plus yard catch and run to Jaden Baugh that was wiped out by a holding call. We've seen holds, we've seen false starts, we've seen offensive pass interference, even though the offensive pass interference against South Florida, I didn't agree with. I didn't see anything. Shouldn't have been OPI, in my opinion, but it was what it was. They have to stop having those holding calls that get them behind the sticks. Because if they continue to have those holding calls, if they continue to have false starts, it's going to be very difficult for Florida to stay on schedule in a ground and pound style of attack. Question 6, will this game come down to third down and red zone? Now, the Hurricanes have been really efficient on third down. They're converting over 50%. That's top 25. It allows them to kind of control the clock, wear people down. Florida has not been as good on third down. They're converting just over 40%. It's not terrible, but it's a pretty significant step below from what we've seen in Miami. But the difference is even more significant when you look at the red zone. Finishing drives has to be the highest priority for the Florida Gators. They've been pretty effective on getting points. They've scored quite a bit, but they've struggled to push it into the end zone. They've settled for field goals. That was their ultimate undoing against USF, settling for field goals as opposed to scoring touchdowns. They're 54th right now in touchdown efficiency in the red zone. Miami, on the other side, really, really good. They score touchdowns on nearly 80% of their red zone possessions. So that'll be big in this game as well. Florida, the under is hit in 7 straight games. It's the longest active streak in the FBS. And Miami is 8-2 against the spread in the last 10 meetings against Florida. I'm taking Miami. I think they're going to absolutely roll. I'm not saying they destroy Florida by any stretch. I'm not saying that, but I do think they cover. I think Miami is really licking their chops in this opportunity. I think their defense has been retooled. I think their defensive line can take over the game, and the absence of Caleb Banks along the defensive line for the Gators will be felt significantly against this offensive line that can pound you in so many ways. I think unless Florida forces a couple turnovers, Miami wins this game by double digits. One of the marquee matchups of the weekend, and what a testament it is to these two coaching staffs to have this game with these two brands in this window with a possible playoff spot on the line. Illinois traveling to Indiana. The Illini are number 9, Indiana number 19. Indiana right now about a 4-point favorite. This game 7:30 Eastern time on NBC. We know right now Ohio State going to the playoff. Oregon probably going to the playoff. But the Big Ten last year got 4 in. So whoever wins this game is going to have a pretty significant leg up over the other team, game and a half advantage. Maybe they get in. We know Penn State's probably bound for the playoff as well. So this could be a pivotal matchup for that 4th spot in the Big Ten. That 4th spot, historically speaking, granted just 1 year, but historically speaking, that 4th spot is a playoff team. So a big one here on the line on NBC at night. Brett Bielema has been amazing. Kurt Cignetti has been amazing. These are 2 great staffs, and I can't wait to see how it all works out. The thing is that Indiana, they haven't really played anybody. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, we don't really know what to make of them just yet. This is their big opportunity, their announcement. Hey, we didn't go anywhere. We're still here. Just win. Google us. Illinois' Luke Altmaier has been very, very solid. He is a perfect personification of what Illinois wants to be. 72% completion, 709, 8 touchdowns, 0 picks. So he's been outstanding for the Illini here in the first 3 games. Then Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, transferred from Cal, generating a lot of buzz. He's got a rocket arm, super accurate, very poised, avoids mistakes. Really impressed with what I've seen so far, albeit against lesser competition. Question 1, how will Indiana's passing attack handle the step up in competition? So far, they've been outstanding, right? In Cignetti's tenure, they're averaging 50-plus points a game, right? They are 3rd in rushing offense, too, though, with 311 rushing yards a game. Against Indiana State, Lee Beebe, explosive member of their 3-headed rushing attack, did suffer a season-ending knee injury. So that's significant. He was leading the team nearly 7.5 yards per carry. He had that home run threat that made that ground game very, very difficult to defend. Now, the rushing attack still has capable weapons with Roman Hemby and Kalen Black, but the absence of Beebe could be significant. This committee approach kind of keeps defenses off balance. They're unable to kind of key on tendencies of one single back. Beebe was that guy that could take it the distance every single time he touched the ball. So his absence removes not just production, but diversity within the scheme as well. So can Hemby and Black kind of step up, who are both very solid, but a little bit more conventional? We will see. Question 2, how will Illinois' weapons attack this defense? Look, Hank Beatty has been amazing for Illinois up to this point. He's been a game breaker, not just as a receiver, but also in the return game. He has turned into one of the most versatile all-purpose players in the entire country. He leads all Power 4 players with 466 all-purpose yards and is one of only 2 players in the nation to have scored a rushing, a receiving, and a punt return touchdown this year. 19 catches, 289, and a touchdown. 25-yard rushing touchdown on his lone carry, and 152 punt return yards. That's a 25.3 average, which of course includes another score. So they got to keep an eye on him because he's been outstanding. And in complementing him too is a really solid attack led by 3 backs that can also get after you, and Fagan, Valentine, Lafferty. Each are a little bit unique and will force defenses to stay honest because the rushing attack will always be there as long as Brett Bielema is coaching the Illini. Now, Indiana secondary, they have a very disruptive front. We know that. But the secondary, you can make a case, is one of the strengths of the team. D'Angelo Pons is a guy that can lock things down. Not the longest guy in the world, but very physical, does a great job, plays with a chip on his shoulder. He's got a ball-hawking safety in Lewis Moore, who already has a couple of interceptions this year. This back end is very, very difficult and should provide a significant challenge to an excellent passing attack for the Illini. Question 3, can Illinois' offensive line hold up in protection? In the first half against Duke, they give up 4 sacks. Things got cleaned up, though, after that first half. And this is a very disruptive defensive front. This front 7 is awesome. They have 10 sacks through 3 games for Indiana. In their most recent outing, they didn't allow Indiana State to do hardly anything. They had just 77 total yards of offense in the game. So how will this aggressive front be able to work against an offensive line that has a lot of veteran leadership, but has at times shown a little bit of a struggle against quality competition? Question 4, who will win the matchups between Illinois defensive backs and Indiana wide receivers? Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt, they make up one of the best 1-2 punches in the Big Ten. And Illinois' defense has kind of been sculpted into one of the better units in all of college football. They prevent explosive plays. They hunt for turnovers. They are 5th in the nation in scoring defense. They allow just 7 points per game. They have been a nightmare against the opposing offense to try to run the ball too. They hold opponents to under 3 yards per attempt. These DBs are really good, anchored by a trio of veteran playmakers in Matthew Bailey, Miles Scott, and Xavier Scott. Xavier Scott is a really good football player. He's all over the place. He's a veteran presence, had 4 picks last year. He's going to be big. That would be a great matchup between him and Surratt in the event which they're going against each other. Question number 5, can Illinois' pass rush get home? Now, the kind of chaos that Illinois tries to create is almost all through their outside linebacker, defensive end, edge presence, Gabe Akis. He's a game wrecker. He leads the Big Ten with 6.5 sacks through just 3 games. He's not just disruptive, but man, you always have to account for him. He is so good. He's got 2 forced fumbles. He is a guy that every single time it's an obvious passing situation, you better have your eyes on him because that relentless pressure is something that can overwhelm the offensive line. And if you look at Indiana's offense right now, their offensive line has been very good. They have one of the best offensive line coaches in the country in Bob Bostad. They have a veteran group, might be their overall team strength. They have an All-American potentially at left tackle. You got experienced guys at center and an experienced guy at guard and Bray Lynch. The Notre Dame transfer Pat Coogan's been very good. Now they got to kind of neutralize this disruptive force of Gabe Akis and limit this entire Illinois front 7. Question 6. Can Illinois' defense continue to force mistakes? Now, through 3 games, Illinois is tied for the national lead with 5 fumble recoveries and has a +6 turnover margin. They don't have any turnovers on offense. So they forced 6. Pretty good start. The results kind of speak for themselves. Over the last 2 years, Illinois is a perfect 10-0 in games and when they have committed 0 or 1 turnovers. So if Illinois keeps a clean sheet, things point to them in being able to get this win. Illinois is 15-5 against the spread on the road in the last 5 seasons. That's the best in the FBS over that span. I'll take Indiana. I think Indiana's disruption that they can create up front is real. I think they got real difference makers along the front. I think their offensive line will hold up. I love the matchup between Akis and their left tackle if we get it from time to time, even though I think Akis will probably be playing on the other side. I think Fernando Mendoza shows you exactly why he was so coveted in the portal in this game. I think this passing attack could potentially overwhelm this Illinois secondary, and it should be a fascinating matchup there, 7:30 Eastern time on NBC. Really looking forward to that one, by the way. And like I said in the onset, tremendous credit to Brett Bielema with what he's done at Illinois and to Curt Cignetti with what he's done at Indiana. To turn these teams, programs that had not often had remarkable runs of success, to turn them into perennial powers says a lot about their coaching acumen and what they might be able to achieve down the road. Because I think the winner of this game, like I said, is in prime position to potentially crash the playoff party. But don't forget about the USC Trojans. They're going to be in the mix as well. Speaking of the USC Trojans, the Michigan State Spartans traveled to Los Angeles to take on the 25th ranked USC Trojans. They are a 17.5 point favorite. This game is 11 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. Gonna need some coffee late night to stay up to watch this one from the Memorial Coliseum there in LA. Number 25 SC under Lincoln Riley. They've been amazing offensively, ridiculous efficiency. We know what they've always been. And on the other side, Michigan State, they're under second-year head coach Jonathan Smith. Really, really good coach, but still a little bit of a work in progress, right? We've seen them so far go to double overtime against Boston College. They win 41-24 against Youngstown State. Their defense struggled in both those games. The 40 points allowed to Boston College, a team that went on to lose to a mediocre Stanford team, and the 24 points surrendered to an FCS team points to some concerns in this matchup against a high-powered offensive attack because Lincoln Riley, man, they have been dominant. Now, they haven't really played very many people, but they did go on the road and beat Purdue after a weather delay. They hung 73 and 59 on Missouri State and Georgia Southern, respectively. The quarterback matchup's an interesting one. Michigan State's Aiden Childs. He's the undisputed heart and soul of this Michigan State offense. He's a true dual threat. He's pretty effective through the air and on the ground, 650 plus through the air, 6 touchdowns. He also is the second leading rusher with 123 yards and another score. His ability to kind of escape the pocket, extend plays with his legs, create positive yardage out of broken plays might give Michigan State their best chance to neutralize USC's newly improved pass rush and generate some explosive plays. USC's Jaden Mayava has been amazing. A model of efficiency and explosive playmaking. Through 3 games, he's thrown for nearly 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. The big thing, though, with him, no turnovers. Hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He's one of the top-rated quarterbacks in the country as far as efficiency numbers are concerned. Question 1, how good is USC's offense? Well, we know what Lincoln Riley is. We know what they've always done. They have a surgical precision that is ridiculous. They are first in the country in total offense at 604 yards per game. They're second in scoring with 55 points per game. They are 6th in passing offense at 364. They're 17th in rushing offense at 240. So they can beat you through the air. They can beat you on the ground. But the question is, how good is the competition that they've been playing against? Question 2, can Michigan State stop the run? Now, the passing game is what kind of garners all the headlines. But USC's rushing attack is very, very difficult as well. It's kind of the foundation for their offensive balance, right? They average 7 yards per carry. They have already amassed 12 rushing touchdowns this season. They have a junior college transfer in Wayman Jordan, who has 286 yards and 3 touchdowns on his own. You also have the Eli Sanders and the explosive King Miller. Kind of creates a 3-headed monster in the backfield that allows SC to maintain fresh legs and relentlessly attack the opposing defensive fronts. Question 3, can Michigan State eliminate the explosiveness of USC's weapons? So far for Michigan State's defense, it hasn't been pretty. Bad defensive performances. There have been coverage busts. There have been miscommunications. They've been openly talking about this. Well, this is not necessarily the get-right recipe that you want because in the passing game right now, Mayava has a ton of options to create matchup nightmares on the perimeter. Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, excellent 1-2 punch. Guys have tons of explosiveness, tons of ability to stretch the field. They're also pretty good with the ball in their hands, though, in the catch and run situations. Can Michigan State's passing game overcome the injuries? Now, there's been a bit of a question mark about what Michigan State might be without 2 of their most productive skill position players. Sophomore wide receiver Nick Marsh, their leading receiver, suffered an injury in the win against Youngstown State. And their running back, Mekhi Frazier, team's leading rusher, also injured in that game too. Now, Jonathan Smith has indicated that the injuries are not expected to be long-term, but at this point, we don't know for sure about their availability for the USC game. The absence of both those players would be a significant blow. And losing your top receiver, your top back, it's huge. It puts an awful lot on the backup options like Omari Kelly and tight end Jack Veiling to kind of step up against legitimate competition. And that's something worth watching, because if they can't go, that could be a significant issue. You also have a couple other guys that might be banged up for Michigan State as well. Alante Brown is questionable. Their guard, Luka Vincic, is out for the rest of the season, so that's significant as well. Question 5. Can Michigan State hold up in protection? Now, maybe the biggest indicator in this matchup lies along the line of scrimmage. Michigan State's offensive line has kind of struggled in protection. They've given up 8 sacks through 3 games against less than stellar competition. Well, now they're facing a USC defense that's been relentless in their pursuit of the quarterback. They have 14 sacks in 3 games. Eric Gentry, their star linebacker, has been amazing. He's got 21 tackles, 3 sacks. This is a big matchup in favor of USC at this point. A mismatch, if you will, and it's going to force Aiden Childs, who might be under duress, to make good decisions and to be opportunistic when he can take off and run to keep that pass rush honest, because I don't know if their offensive line can hold up man-to-man across the board. Question 6, can Childs keep a clean sheet? Now, through 3 games, the Trojans have forced 9 turnovers, including 6 picks, 2 of which have been taken back to the house, and they've recovered 3 fumbles. Bishop Fitzgerald has been one of the best playmakers in the country, had 2 big interceptions on the road at Purdue. And Childs has been good this year, but last year interceptions were a big problem. So if he can keep a clean sheet, it might give them a chance, but it's going to be very tough sledding, I think, for Michigan State. Trends in the game. Michigan State has failed to cover in 8 straight games. It's the longest active streak in the FBS. USC is 7-1 against the spread at home since the start of last season. That is the best among Power 4 teams. I'll take USC. I think they send a message. Last week was a bit sluggish. I don't think that'll be the case in this game. I think I'd lay the points. I think USC runs them away. All right, we always do this. At the end of every Thursday show, we give you some giant killers. I think there's a lot of good ones this week. There are some upsets brewing in college football. I will start on Friday night with Rutgers, who hosts Iowa. Rutgers is a 2.5-point favorite. I think Rutgers can get that win for sure. Miami, Ohio, currently a 2.5-point dog against UNLV. I think Miami, Ohio might make things difficult for Dan Mullen's squad. Miami, Ohio's looked pretty good these first couple weeks. Tulane is a 11.5-point dog against Ole Miss. Seems like a lot of points. I think Ole Miss will win that game, but I would not be surprised. Ole Miss has LSU next week. I wouldn't be surprised if Tulane makes that very interesting. I already told you earlier in the show that I like Nebraska over Michigan. I also think Kennesaw State against Arkansas State. Arkansas State last week gave Iowa State everything they had. Is there a bit of a hangover? And do they survive against Kennesaw State? I don't know. And then Middle Tennessee is plus 2.5. I'll take them over the Marshall Thundering Herd. That'll do it for us here at Always College Football. We always appreciate those of you that join us on our Thursday shows. Such a fun show to be a part of. We love breaking down these games from every possible angle, and we look forward to breaking them down more next week. We'll be back on Sunday to give you a little bit of a rapid fire recap of everything that went down. So keep it locked in here on Always College Football. Monday, we'll do our top 10 takeaways, and then we'll reset for what should be an outstanding week 5 of the college football season. So for all of us here at Always College Football, for Mark, Jake, Jack, the other Jack intern, Sam, I'm Greg. We hope you have an amazing day, and remember, it's always college football. Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.